Hello, and welcome to the 2021 NFPA Annual Membership Meeting. I'm Karen Poteet, and I am the President of the Board of Directors of the National Foster Parent Association, and we are so excited that you have chosen to join us on this first Saturday of October to hear about the wonderful accomplishments of the National Foster Parent Association in calendar year 2020. I am officially calling this meeting to order. As you know, we usually have these meetings in person because they're in conjunction with our annual conference. And so in 2020, we had to do this meeting virtually because we had no conference at all. And then this year in 2021, we did have a virtual conference, but we thought that this membership meeting was so important that we would hold it at a separate time apart from our conference. So welcome. We've got a lot to share with you about our accomplishments in NFPA in calendar year 2021. Excuse me, calendar year 2020. We did send out an email to all of you earlier this week with our minutes from the annual membership meeting in 2020. And ask for you to approve those minutes. The motion was made by Sue Don Diego with a second from Sean Johnson. And I'm happy to report to everyone that the minutes have been approved for that 2020 membership meeting. So now I'm so happy to have Irene Clements with us, who's our wonderful executive director of the National Foster Parent Association. And she's going to share with you the highlights of the association in calendar year 2020.
Thank you, Karen. Well, hi, everybody. Fall is in the air, and so excited about that. I live in Central Texas, and it's been hot right this summer, so we're going to enjoy some fall weather moving forward. And what a great time to be able to share with you, even though it's October and we're talking about 2020. The accomplishments of the National Foster Parent Association. And I want you to take a look. This is what it looks like. You can go on our website. It's already posted on our homepage. There's a link that you can download and read it, or you can print it if you want to, and get the full report. So what I'm going to do for you today is some highlights, right? And just kind of talk about the most significant things that we've accomplished. Certainly this will be a high level review. And so I really encourage you to make sure that you do go and read the actual report, and then look at the website. Take some time, spend some time on our website. We add new things all the time. I think you'll find great information, that we update a resource list frequently. And some of the programs that we're going to talk about today are available on our website as well. So when you get into the bulk of the report, one of the first things you're going to find is a message from our board chair, which is, of course, you just met Karen. If you didn't know her, I hope you get to know her. And Karen has been just a tremendous leader of the board of directors and this organization since she came on board, and certainly since she accepted the position of chair of the board and president of the NFPA. One of the things she says at the end of her little message to you is that on behalf of the board of directors, for which she speaks, she says she's confident that NFPA will continue to carry out the mission with creativity, dedication, that has defined the long history of NFPA. And I'm so glad you put that in there, Karen, because we do have a strong history of providing leadership in many ways for the caregivers across the country. And because of that, I thought that in the report, not only will we talk just, about what our mission is, but there's also a brief historical overview of the National Foster Parent Association for those of you that don't have that information. So our mission is to be a respected national voice for foster, kinship, and adoptive families through networking, education, and advocacy. Short, easy to remember, but highly impactful. If you look at those words, networking, education, and advocacy for all families who serve as caregivers within the system. And, ultimately, we're advocating for the families of the kids who joined us through foster care as well, because that's our point, and that's our promise, is to help these families be reunited when we can. So the history of NFPA, is a long one. It was a brainchild all the way back in 1967 at a meeting in New Orleans. And when the Child Welfare League of America sponsored a national conference on foster care, and that was funded by the Children's Bureau. And at that point, some ladies decided, one from each of those organizations, that it was time to really take action and give the foster families in this country a voice, a real voice, somebody that's not representing them just on the local level and on the state level, but on the national level as well. These two organizations worked together to actually have a conference in 1971 in Chicago, where really was the birth of the National Foster Parent Association. And as say 50 years later, wow, where have we been and where are we going in the next 50? So it's an exciting time for the organization, and an exciting time for foster families in a variety of ways, because we're kind of starting our next 50 years at the time when the country is really looking at changing the way we do foster care in many ways. How children come into the system, how can we keep children out of the system? How can we do lots of early intervention, right, and prevention services, so that children never have to be separated from each other or from their families? And sometimes I think when foster parents hear that, they decide, oh my gosh, they're not going to need foster parents anymore. I don't know if I can approve that. I don't know if I can support that because I love fostering. Well, we know that there will always be a need for foster families, because not every child is going to be safe at home, and not every child is going to have relatives who are able to step up and meet the needs of the children. We know that that's the reality, is that that's the way it's going to be. And we're going to need foster families who are well supported, well educated, well trained, who know where the resources are available in their community, know who to call and talk to, because the children that they will be serving will be those children that can't be served in another way, in a less restrictive environment than going to a new foster family. So I think that when we get into really looking at the supports and services that NFPA has now for you, there's an exciting time in the next year, 2-3 years, through the next group of strategic planning work, to look at new programs, new ideas, new ways to support families. And I think that that's a great time for growth, a great time to partner with lots more partners, and hopefully continue partnering with those who support us already, to really look at making the changes that are recommended, lasting, true, effective change. And we can only do that by embracing the change, which is sometimes difficult, and working really hard to make it what is real in the future. And I hate to use the word to institutionalize it, but I guess that's kind of what we've talked about in the past, is if change can't be handled long enough to institutionalize it, it goes away. And that's not good for our kids and families or this country. So in the report, there are, I highlighted basically 4 programs that I feel have been impactful. And I'm going to just briefly talk about those 4, but then go into 2 of them in a little more depth. So the first one I want to talk about is the National Foster Parent Association Training Institute. So if you don't know about that, oh my goodness, boy, are you missing out. That is a standalone website that we have supported by one of our wonderful partners, the Centene Corporation. And that is training, workshops, webinars for caregivers, and really for all parents. Anybody who's needing assistance, wants to do a better job of parenting. It's on demand. You can take any of the workshops anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's absolutely free, no charge. For families who need training certificates to verify that they've had training in order to keep their foster care license or verification, those are available after each course. So hopefully we've been able to design a training site that will meet your needs now and in the future. Watch it, because we're always working on new webinars and new topics, new workshops with great authorities on speaking about those various topics. And again, if you're available during the day, that's great. If it's 2:00 in the morning, that's okay too. You can have access when you need the access. I know one of the things for me, I would have loved to have that when we were actively fostering, because there were times when they bring us a kid on Friday evening, and I'm like, oh my God, they sure didn't tell us about that. Things we were seeing over the weekend, right? And then I'd like to say, I could need some help. I can't get anybody on the phone. I need some help. If I could go onto the website like that and say, oh, there's one on that topic, I can watch that right now. And that'll get me through until Monday when I can get a hold of somebody. That would have been a godsend, right? So just think of all the ways that you can utilize this website. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, and how it came about. The other program that I love, because I get to do it, is Coffee with Caregivers. And that's just a conversation that I have a guest on Tuesday mornings at 10 on our Facebook page, 10 Central Time. And we talk about various things that have to do with fostering, with parenting, with COVID, and how do we adjust to all of those things? How do we work with the system? How is the system changing? What does that mean for us as a caregiver family? Or even what does that mean for me as a caseworker or a social worker out there, a therapist? It's amazing who our audience is, because everybody that's interested in how do we make this better? How do we do better in how we work with our children and families can be a benefit from the information that our guests provide. So you can go to our home website again. There's a link on across the top of the page on the Coffee with Caregivers. And you can actually go there and watch all the archived episodes from the very beginning. So if you aren't aware of that, again, it's a great place to go to get information, to know that you are being heard, they know that people care about you and your family and what you're going through, who want to celebrate all the good times with you and who want to help you get through the tough times. And there's so many resources that you can learn about by being a part of watching those episodes. And the reason why we've got it archived, all of those on our website, and also, by the way, on YouTube, our YouTube channel, is because, again, not everybody can be available on Tuesday at 10 Central Time to watch that broadcast, can they? So go find it when you have the time. It's always going to be on Facebook somewhere, but it'll also be, on our website and on our YouTube channel. The other impact program, and I don't know if it's really a program, but an impactful group of people, is our Council of State Affiliates. What a treasure they are to us. These are the state foster and adoptive parent associations that join NFPA and come together to work together about how do we make our states better. And they learn from each other. I love being on their monthly calls. They have a monthly call, and they talk about what worked and what's really working. And then the other states will say, well, send me the information on that. That's something maybe we could look at and doing here. Or they'll say, oh my God, they tried to roll this out. It was a disaster, right? Well, let's hear about that too. In case we hear they're going to do that, let's look at the pitfalls and maybe we can make it work where we are. So they're learning from each other all the time. And through that learning, they become advisors to the national board about what does NFPA really need to be spending a time on? What are the main things that we need to be paying attention to in order to best meet the needs of all the caregiver families across the country? And so we'll go into a little bit more impact on that as well. And the other item that I wanted to I know that not a lot of folks know about is our federal tax benefits guide that is for foster, adoptive, and kinship families that we publish every year. It's updated every year by a very, very savvy tax professionals, and it gives excellent guidance to you if you do your own taxes or your tax preparer. Just make sure they get a hold of it, because they've really studied everything that's changing from year to year that affects foster, adoptive, and kinship parents, and have a lot of information, certainly about the child tax credits and all of those things that are really in the news right now, if you pay attention to some of the legislation and the policies that are being considered and changed by the Children's Bureau and the federal government. So we want to give a shout out to Bill's Tax Service for their generosity in doing this work for us every year. When we've had our in-person conferences for years, the representatives are there. They set up a display. They talk with families. These people, this is what they do for a living, and they really understand foster care. They understand adoption. And have really been paying a lot of attention to the kinship families and how they can utilize these same tax benefits for their families as well. So my number one impact story goes back to our commitment to parent education. NFPA has been committed to parent education since its very inception. So in this annual report, I gave you a list of the 49-year history of conferences, and we had never missed a conference, right? And they'd always been in person. And then 2020 came, and we couldn't have a conference. We didn't know how to do a virtual one, and we sure couldn't have an in-person one. So we didn't have one. So what does the NFPA do? Smart board of directors, awesome partner, sponsor, collaborated together, and that's how the National Foster Parent Association Training Institute was born, out of need, out of the NFPA's absolute dedication to education and training of caregivers. Oh my goodness, let me get this out of here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Sorry about that. So in lieu of putting together a conference, we developed a training institute that I hope will go for many, many years, and that every parent in this country will find. And we actually have some folks from other countries who are signing in, and even been contacted by a couple that, can you translate all those things into our language, which I don't think is something we could probably do. But certainly folks that are in countries where they have a good language with an English language are utilizing this training institute. One of the other things that I think is really significant about what has grown out of this, and it was debuted in May of 2020 during National Foster Care Month. We have had contact with states who have called us and wanted to talk to us because they were seeing this as such impactful training for their foster families but they were also feeling that this could be really impactful training to the birth parents of the kids in foster care in their states. And so what they have decided to do at various levels, and as they're implementing this in these states, is they are asking the people who work with the birth parents in their reunification efforts to utilize the training. And they're asking their foster parents to communicate with the parents of the kids in their family, talk about the various training topics that are on there, agree upon some to do and to take them, and then have dialogue about what they each learned from that training and how that could benefit each of them in parenting the child that they're working with. How exciting is that? I mean, this can be huge because we know how hard it is for birth parents to go out and find training. And if it's offered, they have to go wherever it is or at the times it's available, even if it's on Zoom, and they can't do it. And so they look like they're not trying, but we know that's not the case most of the time. It's that there's so many demands on them. Find a place to live, get a good job, get job training, all of these things, make sure you have everything. So when are they supposed to go to get these trainings? Well, they can get it again on their phone, in the middle of the night, if that's when they want to take it. So what a tremendous program this is, all born out of really the COVID pandemic. So I think sometimes we're saying, oh my gosh, it changed our world in ways that we don't like. But for NFPA, it brought us a new program that I think is going to just be a champion for families for many years to come. Let me get next one. So the other one I just wanted to talk a little bit about is a little bit more about our Council of State Affiliates. And as I said a while ago, it's like an advisory council to the National Association's Board of Directors. And there's one representative from each of the state associations that's a member. They can certainly have other people participate as well, of course. And their leadership right now is under Jessica Lloyd Rogers from Oregon, very able leader, and who took over during 2020 from Jim Hatch from Maine, who had been the leader for about 5 years, I think. And situations changed with him and his job and his family, and he had to step down, and Jessica stepped up. We've had good leadership. We've had dedicated people to stay the course, and they are really working hard to look at, again, programs that are vital to the caregivers. One of the things that they've been working on and worked on during 2020 was taking the code of ethics that the NFPA has had in place for about 20 years, I guess, almost, and really looking at that and making decisions about how old it was, how it needed to be revised, updated for where we're doing now and where we're going in the future, especially with the Family First Services Prevention Act rolling out yesterday, October 1, nationwide. Lots of things changing for foster care and expectations. And those things needed to be reflected in that document. And after making some good inquiries and some getting some legal advice about using the Code of Ethics as a title, they've are renaming it as Guiding Principles. And they're simple to use, they're simple to read, and it's a living document. So they are still working on that. The first draft is basically on our website, and as they add to each of the information to each of those guiding principles, those will be added. So again, something else that you need to review on a regular basis to see what's being added and how it can affect you as a caregiver and the expectations that you may have. And they're also going to be adding some resources in each of those categories as well as we move forward. And I think that's going to be really helpful for people too. So you won't have to search so hard to get help when you need it. The next section of our annual report is thought leadership. And I want to thank one of our board members and one of our strategic plan leaders, Tom Rector. Tom put this together. Tom and his wife live in Oregon as well, although his business is in California. So he's kind of a dual state fella. But and sometimes when we have our board meetings on Monday nights, once a month, he's in his car halfway between going home and coming back, right? So to really appreciate that he was agreed to take on the challenge of writing about our business practices and our strategic plan implementation. It's been a really interesting 3 years. And the things that happened during 2020 on the strategic planning basically happened with 3 focus area groups, and that was board development, membership development, and operations. So the board development piece has really helped the group put a magnifying glass out, so to speak, on the strengths, skills, and interests of the board members, and then how they could utilize those in order to improve our day-to-day operations of NFPA, as well as continue to build new programs. But we recognize that some of our operations were probably not up to speed of the way they should have been. We've needed some new policies and procedures. We needed some risk management tools. Certainly, we needed to figure out how are we going to save all of our many documents from the last 50 years instead of having boxes and boxes of paper that are just getting old and falling apart. And besides that, they're really costly to store. So a lot of things have happened, and we've got some nice systems and processes that were developed during 2020 that are creating and really supporting the foundation for an ongoing and consistent governance of the NFPA, and that has been needed. The membership group, oh boy, have they been working, and they did so much work during 2020. About enhancing its practice for listening and implementing the membership needs. And one of the needs was that people were feeling they weren't being heard in 2020. They were feeling isolated because of COVID. Nobody was coming to visit them to check on the kids. You know, it was before we got Zoom happy. Caseworkers weren't seeing the children. Children weren't seeing their families for visits. I mean, a horrible feeling of isolation and of nobody hearing and listening, right? When they called. And that's really where Coffee with Caregivers was born, out of that need, when we were having people contact us and say, but I have to exist. I have to have some validation. I need somebody to talk to me. And so, again, just that making these comments during a board meeting one night, and a committee chairperson who wasn't actually on the board was on the call too. And he said, well, why don't we do something on Facebook, and let's do it. So we had to come up with a name, and it came up with Coffee with Caregivers. But isn't it amazing how some of these things that have become so important to so many people started very grassroots, because we heard from you how you were feeling, what your needs were. So speak out. That's why we have a info@nfpaonline.org email. So you don't have to have anybody's name, just do it at info. And we have a 1-800 number as well that you can call. Let us know what you're thinking, because that's how we can make the better decisions about the future. The other thing the membership group has been doing is reviewing all kinds of existing membership structures during 2020 to kind of see, where did they come from? Why were they structured that way? Are they still the right structure? Do we need to look at new structures? And I think that they will be, presenting some new structures in 2021 or maybe early 2022 now. I don't know. But a lot of work has certainly gone into that. And the Council of State Affiliates has been a really good resource for that group. to talk about what do the states think about membership categories and what should people get for their membership? What does it mean? And so one of the things that grew out of all of those discussions in 2020 was a real commitment on the NFPA board's part to really embrace the Council of State Affiliates to even a bigger degree than before when it comes to well, not all they have to offer, certainly, but even more what they can talk to us and teach us about membership and what our members need. The operations group, that group was charged with a whole lot of things. And we had to start the process. We knew that, quite frankly, that I was going to be retiring at the end of 2021, as well as the administrative coordinator. And so in 2020, we did a lot of work on what would a transition plan, a succession plan look like? What things do we have to have in place? What do we have to start doing, January 1 of 2021 to make sure we have good leadership to follow into 2022? And so 2020 had a lot of impact on what we're actually doing now. Job description developments, timeline developments, what are the attributes we want in the people who follow in these positions? And so a lot of work was done to do that. And I think that it has paved the way for the work that's currently being done to be successful. We wanted to make sure that the financial reporting for NFPA was relevant, fairly easy to understand. Finances, some people say, oh, I'm not going to do that, right? But we needed our board to know and understand where our money was coming from, where it was going. And so we had a pretty antiquated accounting system, and we went to a new class system, which I think is really proving out that that's going to be so helpful as we move into bringing on new staff, as well as implementing new programs as well. The other thing is that, like I said before, is we're 50 years old and we got boxes and boxes of stuff. And we've been going through all of that and weeding out lots of things, and several trips from a shredding company to come shred lots of documents. But all of that said, we're really excited about this new cloud system that we'll be filing our things in, and are hoping to get a lot of that done between now and then the year. And then some of it will have to continue probably into the new year, but I hope not too much of that. And then just again to the process of succession planning, and what does that look like? How can we make it as effective as possible? All of those discussions in 2020 are proving to be invaluable to us as we're in that process now. Another thought leadership category that I would be completely remiss if I didn't talk about is our public policy advocacy. So you'll see a little report in here about what our public policy committee is doing, how they are partnering with other national organizations that are like-minded to the NFPA, because we know that, the more people we can get behind us and their members as well, the bigger clout we have as a constituent group in when it comes especially to what we're doing on a national level. So the committee has been really working hard to figure out how do we do this work now during, the COVID pandemic, when you can't just go to DC and walk in an office and talk to people, right? There's a lot of scheduling involved and doing a lot of Zoom calls with them as well. So some of the factors, that have made it kind of hard to sometimes do some of this work on a national level was certainly COVID-19. inadequate data collection and reporting. Some of the things that we've looked at that we want to work on isn't even available nationally. Quite honestly, the federal government doesn't keep track of how many foster families there are in this country. Isn't that amazing? And because different states don't even know in their own state how many foster parents they have, if they're a county-run system. Wow, right? So much work has to be done in order to sometimes even find data if we can. And I'd love to give a shout out to Fostering Media Connections here, because they, for the last couple of years, have done a study on how many foster families there are in each state. And in those county-run systems, they've gone to the counties, and they have come up with some numbers that they feel are probably close to correct, and about 220,000 families. What they don't know yet, though, is how many of those are kinship families that are licensed as foster families, but only intend to, meet the needs of their kin kids, and are not planning on remaining foster families after that. And so the number might be a little bit skewed, but it's a better number than we've ever had before. And hopefully the federal government will come up with a way eventually that we will be able to track that. How do we deal with caregiver fatigue? You can say we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to advocate here, we need to write a letter here, we need to make a phone call here. Well, when you're just flat wore out from working from home, homeschooling your kids, right? Because they can't go to school, all of those things. So caregiver fatigue is a real factor in, how productive oftentimes we can be. The implementation of the Family First Prevention Services Act, certainly, that, like I said, rolled in yesterday, has a lot of fear about it. Well, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? It's so much. The expectations are so high. Do I want to be a part of it? That sort of thing. And then the lack of adequate training. Again, if we can just spread the word to people around this country that there is a website that they can get really good training for free anytime, they won't have to have it dependent upon somebody local giving it to them, right? So we've got to make sure that we spread the word on that. And then the other thing we often hear from foster families is the negative imaging about foster care, about foster families. And how do we get beyond that? How do we get better media coverage? How do we do more of the positive things? And so we've been working some on that as well. The chair of this group is Arnold Eby from Maryland. And he has in his little report here that, he'd love to have you join if you're interested in public policy. They meet on the third Wednesday of each month at 12 noon Eastern time via Zoom. You can contact Arnie. His email is in here, or you can use our info email address, and I'll get that and pass the word on to Arnie. And then he can contact you about, your participation if you're interested. A really good opportunity to learn. The next section of our report is the financial status of the NFPA at the end of 2020. And so I will give you the total in the bank as of December 31st, 2020 was $404,464.63. Then we had total assets, because we had some other accumulated things and prepaid things, was $414,913.29. We had total liabilities of $75,000. And so our bottom line with liabilities and equity at the end of 2020 was $14,913.29. So looking forward, what does that mean? It means a lot. It means a lot of excitement. It means a lot of hard work too, right? And so in this, you will see some advocacy areas to be addressed in 2021. And these, again, are presented to you. I asked the chair of the Council of State Affiliates, Jessica, if she would write this up for us, and she did. And so I certainly want you to take a look at everything that she put. It's about almost a 2-page report, and it's too much to go into all of it. But again, it's looking forward, and that's certainly what we're doing for our future. The other looking forward piece Karen wrote for us, and it's short, and I'm going to read it for you because I love it. It says, as the National Foster Parent Association moves towards its 50th year since incorporation, the NFPA is in a strong position programmatically, financially, and administratively. An arrow must be pulled back in order to spring forward. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it has seemed as though life was dragging us down with problems and dark times. So the NFPA is moving, and we're moving forward with hope, forward in care, and forward toward change. The next section of the report, again, briefly, it's we need your help. We need every penny helps that we can get through donors and relationships. And, we have lots of folks who send us memorials and funds for celebrations and birthdays. And, I wish we could get so many more celebrating wonderful foster families and stuff. But it seems like we get a lot more when one of those wonderful foster parent passes away. And their friends and community show their love for that person through memorials. And so that's an availability. You can go to the website and do that. We have a Friends of NFPA program that I really wish everybody would do. You can do a recurring payment on your credit card once a month from $15 or $25 or $50, whatever you want to do, to be a sustaining supporter of NFPA. And then, volunteering makes a difference. We don't have a lot of opportunities on a national level to volunteer, except when we are able to have something, in person. But you can do work with Walk Me Home programs, which you can certainly do through NFPA. We've got lots of information on the website about that. It takes volunteers to put on a local walk. And certainly look at the committees that we have listed on the website and see if you're interested in any of those committees. You'd be welcome. And look at, locating organizations, child placing agencies in your local area if you want to have some hands-on volunteer experience, because it's a little hard to do that on the national level. And then to close out the report, our donor and partner recognition. I don't know what we would do, quite frankly, without our partners. And so in this report, you're going to see some of the main bigger corporate type supporters, sponsors, and partners. Centene Corporation, which I mentioned earlier, who helps us with a lot of things and always supports us with our conference as well. But certainly the NFPA TI Training Institute. United Healthcare, I talked about Coffee with Caregivers. They're our sponsor for that program. Again, what will we do without having the ability to have partners who want to really make sure that we're able to communicate with our caregivers? Anthem, another healthcare organization who has stepped up and is supporting our whole new website for us as we move hopefully into 2022. That'll get started, one that'll be much more user-friendly and functional, as well as supporting our work in the Council of State Affiliates, revising that code of ethics to the guiding principles and other things as well. Project Foster is always a supporter of our conference, and as well as many others. So you'll see that those are in there. If you are a federal employee and you're listening to this, it's time for the federal campaign. So if you are, think of the NFPA maybe as one of your charities of choice, because now's the time to sign up between now and December. Again, whatever we can do to help you in your fostering kinship and adoption journey, we're here to do that. We have a few staff. We're small, but we're mighty. And we have a board that is more than willing to step forward and assist in whatever needs to be done. And so you've got a good group of people leading the national effort on your behalf. And it's been my pleasure to provide this information to you today.
And I just want to mention, Irene mentioned during her report that at the end of this year, she would be retiring. So this will be the last annual membership meeting that Irene will be presenting the annual report of the National Foster Parent Association. And on behalf of the board of directors of NFPA, our other staff and consultant members, as well as all of our sponsor partners and our members across the nation, Irene, I want to thank you so much for your dedication to this organization. We know that you're still going to be available to us after the end of the year, that you'll be stepping down officially. And we just want to thank you so much for everything you've done to move our organization forward and into its next half a century of existence. So thank you so much.
Well, you're very, very welcome. It's been my absolute honor and pleasure.
And thanks to all of you, our members, for taking time out on a Saturday to drop in and listen to us talk about all of the wonderful accomplishments of the NFPA in calendar year 2020. As Irene said, please reach out to us at info@nfpaonline.org. You can send a direct message on Facebook if you want to. I mean, there are many avenues to reach out to us because we want to hear from you. And so please let us know how we can assist. And once again, thank you so much for joining us for the 2021 annual membership meeting.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.